All right, hey guys, welcome to the second video. So as promised in the last video, we're gonna go over styles and pretty much, so styles, I wanna make sure that I hit this home. So attribute just extends the functionality of your element, right? So we learned last week that an element is the start tag, the content, and anything in between. So for instance, these right here, this P tag, right here to this closing P tag is the paragraph element. Okay. This right here is the header element. Okay. So that should have just been a quick refresher so you know. So now what the paragraph does is pretty much the same as it does in Microsoft Word. It separates a segment of text that is your paragraph, right? And then it also gives it a little bit of formatting, space before and space after. But attributes can extend that functionality. For instance, if you knew that you wanted this tag to be a certain uh, size, you could change the size of it, the width, the height. If you wanted this, and there are also block elements, and we'll talk about all that later. I don't want to throw a whole bunch of stuff at you and then confuse you, but it's a block element. So if we wanted to make this block of text, if in our paragraph, let's say you wanted, for whatever reason, you wanted that to be a little smaller and you wanted it to be centered, you can set attributes which would extend the functionality of that paragraph tag to give it a certain height, a certain width, some padding, some margins, and things like that. So that's what attributes do. And then attributes, also another thing about them is that they are basically property value. For instance, if you wanted to change the background color, right? So the property would be background color, but then the value would be whatever color you wanted it to be. So if we wanted it to be red. So let's go ahead and test that theory. Why not? So what's going to happen is the way that an attribute is written is property value. So for instance, if we go, let me go ahead and bring W3 Schools over here so I can show you what it looks like. So right here, so tag name. So right here, this would be that, paragraph. And then the attribute is the style attribute. And then the property, right? Colon value. So attributes are always written as tag name, then the style, so whatever attribute you want to use, the equal sign, and the quote. And then in between those quotes are the property and the value. So I'm going to have to get a whiteboard so I can show you guys that, figure out how to use the whiteboard that we have that's available to us. But in any event, let's go ahead and set up a style. So let's say we want to change the background color just behind paragraph. So you already saw what the site looked like before. I'll give you a glance just to make sure we remember. So this is what the site looked like right now as it stands, right? So what I'm going to do is extend the functionality. So I'm going to put my cursor right in the P tag. Let me go ahead and make this larger because I think I want to make sure you guys can see it. So I'm going to hit Command plus plus, making sure I'm in the right area. All right, just to make it a little larger. So hopefully this helps with that. All right, so in the P tag, I'm going to extend the functionality via adding the style attribute. And the way I'm going to add it is I put my cursor right before the right bracket, hit the space bar, and I'm going to type style, right? So now I'm doing attribute, and we said the attribute is whatever the name is, the equal sign, and the quote. So anytime I do attributes, because I don't want to forget that last quote, I'll always type it like this first. So I always do whatever the attribute name is, the equal sign, and the quote. Then in between the quotes is where I'm going to put the property value, okay? And it also, another thing about attributes, it always ends with that semicolon. So in here, if I want style equals the property of background color. Another thing to note too, this is actually, let me make sure I'm typing in the right spot, but this is actually CSS. And with CSS, when you have two words, they are combined with a dash. They're never spaces. They're combined with a dash. So that's why background color, two separate words, they're combined with that dash. So background color, and then I want to put colon. Okay. And then let's say we say red, and then semicolon ends it. So think of this like a sentence, right? So we have the background color that would kind of be like the comma in a sentence, but it's the colon, and then red, and then what ends that style, how HTML or how the browsers know that the style ends, is with the semicolon. And for sentences, that will be the period. So hopefully that helped. I don't know. So I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to go into our document. Hopefully they're linked correctly. And I'm going to hit refresh. And as I hit refresh, you will see that it is taking on that attribute that we added to this paragraph style, right? We extended the functionality of the paragraph style. So instead of it just setting up this block of text to be a paragraph and giving a space before and after, we added an attribute to it to extend its functionality by adding a background color of red. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. I can't see your faces, but I try to relate that as much as possible, as much as I can. All right, so but that's pretty much how style works, no matter what. And if we wanted to do two things at once, let's say we did the paragraph style, and let's say we wanted to also set up maybe this H2 tag. So maybe we want to add style, the style attribute equals quote, quote. All right, so put those quotes in there. And then the property value, I'm going to say background dash color, colon. And then maybe here I'll say, I don't know if this color even works, but I like to live on the edge. So I'm going to say sky blue. It does exist. Look at that. Sky blue. All right. So, and then I need to make sure I do not forget that semicolon, because weird things will happen. And if your syntax is not correct, the browser will not read your stuff correctly. So make sure that semicolon at the end is super important. Those quotes are super important. So I'm going to save this, and we're going to preview what that looks like. And also, if you ever go to preview and it doesn't work, make sure you saved it, because like earlier when I was saving my cursor was actually in the web browser, and I thought I was saving. I was like, what's going on? And the crazy menu was showing up. But so just make sure you're at the right place. But look, it turned it that sky blue. Okay. Really, really cool. Let's try another one, because I like to live on the edge. What if you wanted to change the color of your text? So let's say in this paragraph, you wanted to change the color. You wanted the color of this text to be, I don't know, sea green, right? So let's see. So we'll hit paragraph. We'll hit, you know what? We'll do it different. No, we'll do this one. All right, style, and then equals. And then anytime you want to change text, the actual term for that is just color. It is not text color. People all the time want to add that to it. Back in the day, it was text color. Get that out of your head. It is simply color. So anytime you want to change the color of your text, it is just color. That's it. Nothing else. Just color. All right. So I'm going to do style attribute at the property. So the property is going to be color, because that's what we want to change. Make sure we have our colon, right? And then what color? The value, we're going to say, I said sea green. Yep, sea green. And we want to make sure we don't forget what? I know you said it. Even though I don't hear you. I know you said it. So that's semicolon. All right, so I'm going to save that. Now we're going to go back to our browser, and we're going to refresh it. And look at that. So now our text changed. So that's how you add style to it. You're going to add style to your stuff this week. So that's pretty cool. And just have a ball. You can show me a rainbow thing. That shows me that you know how to do it. I don't even care. I just want to see that character come alive as you guys are building your Labor Day sites this week. So that pretty much, that's style. Let me move this back over here. Oh, let me move it back. Okay. So that's the styles that I wanted to go over to make sure I didn't miss anything in here. Okay, so inside of the styles, and you guys can play with this as well, we have fonts. You can set up your fonts, like your font family, property values. Matter of fact, let's do that for one. All right, so let's go to another paragraph. and maybe style, and the I got excited. All right, so our attribute, always attribute name equal quote quote. Okay, so inside of here is where we'll put the property value. So we're gonna say fonts. That means that we're changing the font family to be whatever font that we want this to be. So I'm gonna say font dash, 2 words, right? So that means that it's the dash font family, and then we have our um, um, don't forget your colon, and let's say I want Georgia. I don't know. Oops. G-O-G-I. All right. So now I'm choosing a font in Georgia, but as you saw, Dreamweaver helps us out some. So if I wanted to set up a font stack, which we will later on, notice it's showing me the font stack that actually goes with Georgia. But in this case, I'm just going to go with Georgia. But what this means, we'll talk about it later. Don't want to confuse you for now. But let's just go with Georgia. I'm going to hit that. And I'm going to save it because I got the semicolon. Now I'm going to go back to our document. I think I saved it. Yep. Go back to our document, and what we should see is this font. Notice it changed, and now it's following Georgia. Okay. So that's what happens with font families. So you can go through, you can change like the families of your font. Let me see another one. You can change the text size, and that's going to be with font size. So let's say um, down here in this paragraph, we wanted to set up the font size. So we would set up our style attribute. And the cool thing is once you know attributes and tags, HTML becomes super easy. So once you know the syntax of it, so you know the attribute is the attribute name equals quote, quote, it is smooth sailing from there. So style, and then I'm going to go to equal, put in our attribute, the quote, quote. And then inside of here is where we're going to do that property value pairing. And I said we were going to do font size. So separate it, 2 words, get the dash, the colon, and then maybe we'll say, we'll just do what it says in here, 300%. And we're going to talk details about fonts later on down the line. Hit the semicolon, save that, and let's check this out. So let's see what happens with that paragraph. So I made sure I saved it. The way that I know I saved it is because there's no asterisk here. So it is saved. I'm going to hit refresh, and we should see that the font size changed up to 300%. And it did. Okay, so it's following what we are telling it to do. Hopefully you guys are getting the hang of it. Hopefully you get a little excited, which I'm hoping. That is actually the goal, is to excite you a little bit and like, oh my gosh, I'm building a website, because you're awesome. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to set up the alignment. So let's say down here we want a different alignment. You guys already know that style equals, right, quote quote, right? As long as we have that in there, we are good. We're going to set up alignment. So that's 2 words. So text dash align. And then if you want Dreamweaver to help you out, it will. So notice how Dreamweaver is putting that space between the semicolon, the colon. You can have that space, and that's fine. Actually, I prefer it with the space, but do it. Either way works. Either way is going to work and get you to where you need. So notice it also helps you out by telling, hey, do you want it justified left? You want it justified right? How do you want it justified? How do you want to set this up or whatever? So I'm going to say right, just for the heck of it. And make sure you do that semicolon. I just saved it. Let's go to our document. Let's bring that back over. And let me go scroll down. Let me hit refresh. And notice now this is aligned on the right side. Okay, so I'm going to go over one. I think I want to go over one more. Nope, I think we did all the ones in this area. Okay, so there are plenty more, and especially when we get into CSS to styles. But for now, that's good. That's good for these for now. So just play with them. See what type of cool stuff you can have happen to your website, and that will help you style it. All right. So that's pretty much styles. Moving on, let's go down to formatting. I tell you. So, formatting your text is where you're formatting stuff for specific reasons. So, for instance, bold text. You probably noticed that if you hit B for bold and you set it up, it's going to give you the same result as doing strong. So then you're like, well, what's the difference? Also, italic. If you do italic, I for italic, and then you do M, which is emphasize, then you're like, well, they do the same thing. So what's the difference? And here's the difference. One is for the look only, meaning if I want to set something bold, like say for instance, I wanted 13 bold because it's talking about gunshots, right? 13 gunshots were fired, and I want 13 bold. Well, then what happens is all I'm doing is saying in 1777, 13 gunshots were fired in salute. So no matter what, having that bold doesn't change the way that I say it. It's just that it looks bold, right? So if I put B here, let's just do this now. So if I hit B, right, and then I put this on the end, and then let's say for gunshots, I put EM, just so you can see pretty much the difference in the two. Actually, sorry, it should be strong. So if I put strong here and then strong here, okay, I'm going to save that, and we're going to go over to our text that we have and hit refresh. And notice there's really, it does not look any different at all. It looks like I put the same exact code, or sorry, the same exact tag in for both, but I didn't. Clearly you can see that I have strong and I have bold. So what's the difference, you say, right? And that's what I want to talk about. So the difference is that if a screen reader reads this, if it reads this sentence right now, it's going to say, in 1977, 13 gunshots were fired in salute. Okay. And notice there was more emphasis on gunshots, right? Because if I put strong there, yes, it looks bold. But the other purpose of it is it's meant to be read with some type of emphasis on it. It's meant to be read with strongly. Okay. So the screen readers know, oh, they really want me to read this with emphasis. So that means that someone who has um, who can't see or who uses a screen reader on the site or for whatever reason can get the same type of enjoyment as they come to your site and read, right? They come to your site and they'll get the same experience as someone who can see, right? So if you just have bold there because you just want it, for formatting, just to look pretty, then okay, then that's fine. But if you want them to read it a certain way, you want everybody to experience it a certain way, then you need to make sure you have the proper tags. Okay. So bold is really just for making the text bold, and that's it. Strong is for, that means that's important text. That's text that you want to be read a certain way. Okay. So that's the difference in the two. And the same difference between italic text and emphasis. And italic is with an I. So if I say fired, right? So if fired, I want to be with an I. I'm going to go ahead and move this over here. And then let's say salute, I want to be read with emphasis. Okay. And you're going to notice when I show it, there's not going to really be a difference. Right? Not really a big difference that you can tell, right? They pretty much look the same. There's fired, there's salute, there's fired. But when the screen reader reads it, it's going to read it in the context that you want it to be read. So that's the difference in the two. Italic means that I just means that for presentation purposes, this is italicized. But when you put that M in there, that means, oh, I want this text read, a certain way, right? I want emphasis on this text as well. All right, so then we have mark text, and all this is going to do, let me find something. Let's do American. Let's mark this one. So this tag is here. So we're marking American. Okay. As a matter of fact, let's get a few out the way so that, so let's say, so small. So maybe find, we want to be small. And these do exactly what you would think, but I'm going to show you in a second. So small. So this is our tag for small. You probably guessed that it's going to make the text smaller, and it is. And then marked is probably going to mark up the text in some way, and that's exactly what it's going to do. Let's do deleted. Let's say we didn't want official to be here. We want it deleted. So I'm going to do that just to save space in the video. So deleted. Maybe we want to insert for. Okay. And I just do a few of these. And then insert pretty much is inserted text. So this is kind of like, what is it called? Like when you're proofing, you're proofing your paper or whatever, and someone does like the symbols for it. This kind of gives you a way to proof it. And we'll do sub and super, which you guys probably already know what they mean. But let's just say July 4. Let's give it a sub. And then the last one, let's see if I have anything else with numbers. Maybe 13 gun. Let's give it a soup. This is about to be fun. Hang on. Oops. Okay, so I'm gonna save this. All right, so we're gonna go back to our document so we can see what actually happened with all that I just did. Okay, and so as you can see, let me move this smaller a little bit. Let me zoom in. Okay, maybe not that much. All right, so as you can see, we marked up our text here, right? So it's giving it the color. And the cool thing is later on down the line when we get into CSS, you'll see you can even tell it what color you want the highlight to be as well. So it's pretty cool. So we have our markup, right? We have our sup, right? So it takes it up half a character up the line. We have our deleted text, which is just putting a hole through it. We have our inserted text, which just shows us that we're inserting it by putting an underline. And we had one more, where is it? Oh, our July 4th, right? So it's putting it one character below. So that's pretty much what these special formatting elements do. It's pretty cool. So we all talked about bold and strong and emphasis, small markup. Okay, so I think we talked about, yep, we talked about everything in this section. Sweet. So hopefully that wasn't too fast. Hopefully you guys grasping onto that. This is just where we get into the fun, nitty gritty, cool stuff of HTML. And again, this is another semi-light week because I didn't want to overwhelm you guys with, especially with as much stuff as we're going to be going over soon. So, all right, so we have that. So now we're going to talk about quotations. And there's several types of quotations. There's block quotes, short quotes, abbreviation, address, cite. And we're not going to go into all of these, but just note that if we wanted to set up a block quote, and a block quote, what it's going to do is indent our information. So I'm going to put this back over here. Let me see. All right. So, and a block quote usually is accompanied with the site. Sorry, the site site tag. All right, and let me see if I can find a set of text that I want to use as the block quote that I haven't styled yet. Okay, here's one. Okay, so in here, let's say I'm going to take that from being a paragraph to being a block quote. So I'm just going to type in block quote. All right, sorry about the loudness. My son is playing a game. All right, so we have block quote. And then, so I'm just going to show you what's going to happen just by having that. I'm going to hit, let me go back up so you can see it, to refresh. And note that it indents in and as a block quote. Okay. So if I had a site that I wanted to, all these distractions in my background. Again, I apologize. But let's say I had something that I wanted to cite, right? You can like cite a web address of something or something like that. So all I have to do is add the site tag to that. So let's say I have to make up a web address, but so it's going to be the site attribute, and we all know attributes written as the attribute name, equal, and the quote, right? So now I have the site. So let's say I wanted to add a link, HTTPS. I'm going to add my favorite link because I know it. That's the only reason my favorite. So HTTPS. So this is what's called an absolute URL. That means that you have to have the full address, including HTTPS :// and then the www dot, let's just say google.com. Yep. Okay, so I have this. I'm going to save this so we can see what happens. Bring this over. Hit refresh. I don't remember where I put it. Hang on, let me see. www.google.com. I forgot. Google.com. Let me see. Goodness. Block quote site. Google.com. Huh. Not quite sure why it's not coming up. It should have come up as a link. Let me see. All right, I'll troubleshoot that in a moment. All right, so but that's what it should. So the block quote should have shown. It should have shown the web address, but we'll see. Maybe it's something with my refresh. All right, but that's a block quote. In any event, the block quote is going to give you the blocked in text, which is really, really cool. Love it. The other thing is if you're going to do a quote for short quotations, like quotations that are like one sentence or no more than two sentences, then you could just do Q tags where I have the block quote. So instead of it being block quote, you just put Q and it'll quote out that. So for instance, if I wanted, let me see, something down here maybe. Let's say this last part right here. In 1993, Congress changed Independence Day, or let's just say this part. Maybe I want to put a Q. Oops. I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to bring this over. Got to remember it's the last sentence, so I'll see it so we can see what happens at the same time. And I hit refresh, and it made it a quote. See how I put it in quotes? And that's pretty much what it's going to do. See that right there, this sentence right here? Browser pretty much read that and put that in quotes. All right. And then abbreviations of the rest, you guys can go through those on the site on your own, but just know that those options are there for you. HTML comments. Now, this is awesome. I love commenting. I comment all the time because I work in a team environment. So what a comment is going to do is a comment allows you to put code in here for another user or for yourself later on, or sometimes I use comments to credit people without it showing up in the browser. So it's pretty cool. So if you know that you're doing some cool technique and you're not going to remember it, like if you have the memory that I have, which is horrible, but you're not going to remember it, you can put a comment in here. So for instance, I might put it right here. So I might put a comment saying, this is pretty much a quote. So the way that we do this, I'm going to hit return. Okay. So the way that you add a comment is left bracket. You want to hold shift and the one key, which is going to give you the exclamation point, and then dash dash. And then I always hit a space, dash dash, and then right bracket. So the reason I do it this way instead of writing out the comment in between is because you don't want to forget this. Notice, let me cut that for a second. Notice everything went gray and I got this red right here. Let me know something's wrong, right? Because if you forget to put in those last two dashes, you will mess up your website. So I always try to make sure that I do it from the jump. That way I don't have anything to remember. So I always do that left bracket, exclamation point, dash, dash, and then dash, dash, right bracket. Always start off that way. And now anything I put inside of here is pretty much a comment that's not going to be included. So I could type, you know what I mean? And that comment's not going to be included. Another cool thing about this, let's say you're working on a site, 5 years later, you leave the company, someone else is working on the site, and you have little notes in here of things that they need to do. They can just look back in here and be like, oh, that's why they did this. Okay, that makes sense. Let's say it's something that you had to do that was unorthodox and not normally done. And they go in and they want to correct it, but you're telling them, no, if you correct this, this is going to mess up this. This is why I did this. So it's pretty cool. Comes in handy. All right, so I might comment this out and say, this is a short quote. And then I can save that and nothing's going to happen. So I'm just warning you now, when we look at the site, we're not going to see anything. So it's right before that last quote at the bottom, the one that I have highlighted. If I hit refresh, we're not going to see anything, but this is where I put it, right? So it's pretty cool. I am a fan of comments, especially when you get into having a whole bunch of divs and stuff like that, which we'll talk about later, but it's going to help you. It's only going to help you. Okay, so we have, let's see, comments. That's pretty much it for comments. Let's go into our colors. We are moving right along. Colors are awesome. All right, so colors. You can go through all these colors. I just wanted you to know that they are here. So we have our HTML colors. And now what's kind of cool, and they're adding more to it, as they go, but you used to just you could only use hexadecimal numbers. Well, now it's programmed into the browsers, these colors. So these are some of the newer ones, like there's tomato, and there's gray, and orange, and slate blue, and darker blue. So we can just type these colors into the browser, which is super cool, right? So we already learned about background color, we learned about color, and stuff like that. And this is just giving you more in depth on what you can do with the colors. And we also still have the options of the background colors and stuff like that. You can also use gradients now. We're not into the gradient area. You can use RGBA, which holds alpha channel, which is transparency, which is kind of cool, which is what it's showing you right here, the RGBA colors, and things like that. And the way that you would do that is RGBA, right? So that's red, green, blue. And then you would have the alpha channel of 0.5. And then if you do decide to play with this, just know that the transparency, which is alpha color, only goes to 1. So it's from 0 to 1. So you do percentages in between. So if it's, you want 20%, so it'd be 0.2, right? This is 0.5, so that's half transparency. So just something to note. But that's all the color values they're talking about. So definitely read through this section and play with that. We already went through color, so we are good with that. So let me move that over. Yeah, we already played with color because that's just my favorite thing to do. All right, so I think now we're ready for links, background images, and images. But I'm going to stop this video here so that we can go into the next video. And the next video, we'll be talking about images, background images, and links. All right. So I will see you guys in a few. Hope you're enjoying the videos.